Yeah, exactly.
Oh. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the personal history of video games. Hey. I am the host, Eric Kanius. I'm from Canada. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
But enough about me.
Yeah, Canada.
I'll introduce the fine panelists that decided to join me. Next, to my right, we have Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb.
Hi, hello. Hi, thank you, hello.
And then we have Karlee Esmailli. Is that how you pronounce it?
Almost. You're so close. Esmailli from.
Oh,
Yeah.
close.
I work at Cards Against Humanity. Yeah.
And at the end there, the perfect Samantha Kalman.
I live in space now. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment and invite anyone in the crowd to stand up who identifies as a Nazi. Great, this is great. No one stood up. That means I don't have to ask anybody to get the fuck out. Thank you, everyone.
Hey.
An early test for the audience.
You
All
passed.
right, so what are we here to do? So we all know the personal history of video games. Well, what is it, you ask? We all know about release dates and stuff like that, when consoles came out and games and all whatever. Dates and times you don't remember. But what we want to know, or what is interesting to hear, is our personal experiences with these video games, our history, and how our lives and the timeline of video games intertwine, and what effects they had on our lives. So I'll give the story that I was pitching these guys with the panel, and talking about my grandparents and the Wii. The Wii, when did that come out? 2006? 7? 6?
That sounds right.
Okay, 2006, the Wii came out. My grandparents are your traditional grandparents. They'd stay in their apartment all day watching TV, and that's fine. They didn't do much, but that's okay. That's not a problem. But then the Wii came out, and all of a sudden, they started going out more and like staying out late and playing Tiger Woods golf, and I don't know, like it was this huge transformation, especially my grandma, who just sit at home and watch murder shows, as my mom puts them, and just where people get murdered, and she really enjoyed those for whatever
Did
reason.
she then start going out to do murdering? Like what?
I
She's like, I gotta get out there and do a murder and take a Wii remote and go like this.
She really liked Manhunt.
She must have
for the
played
Wii.
Manhunt.
Okay, yeah.
She got in on it before
Makes
it was
sense.
banned. Yeah. But yes, instead of staying at home, the Wii, like this console that we all know about, and it's old. I mean, you see those fluff pieces on the news about like, oh, they put it in elderly homes and yay. But like seeing someone in my family who was traditionally a homebody go out, and she would stay out till like 3 in the morning when I was going to bed at midnight, and she started getting tans and like piercing her ears. She was a teenager again, and it was like the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And it was all because of Tiger Woods golf. And then at like family things, my grandpa and grandma would talk about playing Tiger Woods golf like it was the real life. So my grandpa would be like, oh, I just got sponsored, and like, oh, I got the new clubs, and I got this new outfit, it's great. And my brother was like in real life? Like, no, for the Wii. Oh, wow then.
Did she ever go out and play real golf?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's pretty hard. Golf
Yeah.
is extremely
Yeah.
difficult.
Especially if you're a grandparent, probably it's hard on the body. But the Wii golfing is just as good. It's 1-to-1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Or someone with less spotty background. or spotty
Tiger Woods
history.
then, not
Yeah.
Tiger Woods now.
When we knew and loved him.
We
Yeah.
still love him. We just please Tiger.
In a different way. So yeah, it's stories like that of how video games are in our lives, and there's this medium we interact with, we have more connection with it than we do movies or music and that sort of thing. So that's why I brought these panelists on to share their stories.
Well, the Wii specifically, like I remember when it came out, I come from a family, an extended family that cares very little about games. They would always just sort of tolerate my hogging the TV with Super Mario World. And when the Wii came out, it came out right before Thanksgiving. And I had been hyped on it for like all year leading up to it. I was like, this controller's a revolution, oh my God. And we were going to like this extended family Thanksgiving dinner, and my partner at the time was like, you're not allowed to bring the Wii. And I was like, oh, but okay. And then, so we go to this Thanksgiving, and then this friend of our family who has known me since I was little, they were like neighbors with my parents when they first moved to Seattle. She brought it up. Like this woman Joy brought it up. She's like, "So who's heard about this Wii?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then my brother, who was also at Thanksgiving, said, "Well, I brought mine. It's in the trunk in case we want to play it."
Yes.
And like I didn't have to instigate. Like I didn't even try to instigate playing Wii, but there we were at Thanksgiving with like this huge variety of people in ages and experience with games, and we were all playing tennis and bowling, and my fiance was just like, gosh, it was okay. But that's my Wii story.
It's a good Wii story. Yeah, it's great. I have kind of like a parent's story, like holidays and that kind of thing. It's really cool to like see these consoles come out. I think that it's accessible for people. But I just like a couple of months ago stumbled across this game called 1979 Black Friday, and it's this like smaller indie game about the Iranian Revolution. And my dad immigrated from Iran during the Iranian Revolution, and because I'm an amazing daughter for his Father's Day gift, I was like, let's sit down and play this game. And he had never really spoken to me about what he went through, or really anybody in my family, because it was just like difficult memories, not to get too heavy, but he just like, I can't tell you the like heavy silence in him just like watching like a game in America that's like modern, that has like a following, kind of express what he went through. Because as you can kind of imagine, when you're immigrating to another country that has a complicated relationship, to say the least, it was just like really incredible. And the next night he called his friend who he immigrated to America with, and they had 2 giant cigars, and they made me play the game all over again. And they just smoked these cigars inside and quietly just let a tear or two fall. And it's just like, video games can make like Middle Eastern men cry, which I think is an amazing thing too, just kind of family style.
That should be on the back of every box.
Yeah. That's one of the rating descriptors, I think.
Yeah,
is that it's
exactly.
going to be in there. Yeah. I think, for me, the family stuff is, my dad got me into playing video games, or maybe it was vice versa. It's kind of hard to know. But, we spent time going to arcades and stuff like that. We'd go on the weekends and a lot. And, he would do stuff like, when the NES came out and we got one of those, like he would stay up late at night earning money. He wouldn't advance my game. He wouldn't go beat a dungeon or anything like that. He would just go around and collect a bunch of money for me. And I would wake up the next day and be like, all right, cool, I'm going to go waste all this on arrows.
It's like real life. They give you money.
Exactly. And then I just squander it on bullshit. And and then, later we would get into some of the baseball games and stuff. Like we were both, he got me into baseball. And then my uncle, his brother, Steve, started coming around, and they would play RBI baseball and then later baseball stars. And they just obsessed over these baseball games. Like Steve would come for a Saturday, and he would, he'd show up 11 a.m. and probably leave at like 11 p.m. Hours to drive on either side of it, which was fine because Steve was out of his mind. And it was just, it was always really fascinating because this was still when I was just young enough to where they could still beat me at those games. And they would play, and I would watch them, and I would get better, and I'd occasionally play them here and there, and really not have a ton of luck playing against them. But there was something about just kind of seeing these 2 guys, these 2 brothers. My dad's side of the family was and is kind of largely like a mystery. We didn't really associate with them very much outside of kind of his immediate family. So Steve kind of became like the one kind of frequent connection to that side of the family, which he was crazy to a point where you understood why maybe I didn't know anyone else on that side of the family. And eventually, like, they would fight, they would get back, they do what brothers do, and Steve wouldn't come around for a while, then he'd come back, and and it was just a fun bonding thing to kind of be there with these guys and kind of just learn baseball, but also kind of just watch them be. And eventually I got to a point where I was able to beat my dad pretty routinely at that stuff, and that was kind of it for him in video games. So sorry, I guess I kind of ruined it in some ways, but yeah, it was a good kind of powerful early thing to just kind of get into that stuff, or in more than just like get a game, beat a game, get another game, beat a game.
Yeah.
Just the kind of more social side of it, I guess.
Yeah, so I think like the commonality with all these stories is just like seeing different sides of people that you know, or like for however many years you knew them, especially family, and they're seeing this other side brought out by games, and for whatever reason, all these different reasons that all this stuff happens. Oh, where was that? What was my transition to that? Oh, that was it. Of the day or the time that I learned my parents are humans that lie, and not just these like perfect beings of humans. I was young.
Oh no.
No, it's a fine story. It's a happy ending story of just like, we'll go to the story. So we had a PlayStation 1 in my family back when the PlayStation 1 was out. And for some reason during like closer to Christmas time, my mom was like, oh, I have a friend from work who is trying to decide what console to get their kid, and they have an N64 to borrow from someone else. Can they borrow your PS1 and like see what's up? I'm like, all right, sure, that makes sense. Sure, that's how people decide things. And then Christmas rolled around. For some reason, I was not focused on this console. I don't know what was distracting me at the time. But we got Christmas comes around. We open the box. It's our PS1. You know, that's weird. And then it's like, oh, my uncle modded it. Here's a bunch of burnt discs.
Nice.
Yes. But then like a month or two later, I'm like, my parents lied to me, and a very strange lie too, and I totally believed it. But they're not perfect beings anymore.
And now they're breaking the law.
Super breaking the law and encouraging me to like, you can rent games and burn them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I go to my friend's house and burn games.
Yeah.
Your parents sound amazing.
I mean, that's my parents got me a Commodore. Well, it was a Commodore 128, but it was, it ran Commodore 64 games primarily. And there was a thing you could install into the disk drive called a RAM board, and Rambo, and it was all capitalized because it was cool. And it would adjust the speed of the disk drive, because if you slowed down the speed, you could copy more disks. So it was literally like, whatever. We had found all the weird tricks on all the old cable boxes where if you hit all 4 of these buttons at the same time, you could get the movie channel for free and stuff. So it was not, the concept of occasionally stealing things was not new to the family. But, it was a similar idea of like, here's this Christmas present, and by the way, we're installing this thing in it, and now any disc you get from a friend, we can get it. We can get it. It's fine. Which worked out because like no one was selling Commodore games in the area, so it was kind of a necessity in a lot of ways just to play that stuff.
I definitely burned a couple of PlayStation games, but I didn't let my family know.
Would they think less of you?
You're a rebel.
Yeah.
Intellectual property rights are a serious thing.
It's a huge deal.
I take my responsibilities seriously to keep secrets about the things you steal. I downloaded and like burned PlayStation games with my friends in middle school. We would like, this was the days of having like $5 a week as an allowance, right? So we would go to the video store that had like 99-cent Tuesdays, and we would like each get a game for 99 cents, and then immediately take it back and rip it and burn it. And I still have a bunch of those copies. So, but with friends, stealing with friends, it's a thing.
You guys both come from such like tech-savvy families. We were just awful. I remember we got N64, and I have these childhood memories of playing Ocarina of Time with my whole family. Like my sister and dad were fully like invested at the TV with like the guidebook that you would buy, like the physical pre-internet book, because we could not figure out that damn game. And I like remember so specifically the first spider boss coming down, and we never beat the spider boss from Ocarina of Time.
was scary.
That's how tech bad we were. We couldn't even beat a boss in a game, but it was.
That game was hard and the controls were bad.
It's true. Yep.
But when you're playing with a family, like how many people are watching you play this game? Or
Like this is better than Christmas morning for me. It was my dad and my sister were like actively playing. I was younger, so I was like a little scared and hiding behind the couch if like anything scary popped out. And then my mom would just kind of like be coming in and out. Like I think we spent several Saturdays growing up like that. It was really fun.
that's awesome.
We would play Tetris on my Mac Plus.
Fuck yeah.
The black and white Mac Plus that had like all like the Russian iconography on the sides of the table, and that was like it was like before WASD, but we had
Right.
like it was like JKL Sem were were the controls, and that's the only game that my family we really like had any sort of competitive nature at. But we would definitely compete to see like, oh, like I got to level 4 and there's like this weird like water park thing, and then like my sister got to level 9 and it has like it because it changes the graphics around the board, and like level 9 was like outer space, and we were like, whoa, and having zero context for why outer space was the last level. But yeah, Tetris, that Mac Plus version of Tetris is the only one in my mind that competes with the NES version or the Game Boy version, specifically because like my family would just like sit in the office downstairs and just like take turns.
I just have like really limited, like usually it was like me and my dad, or like me and an uncle and an aunt or something. I'm an only child, and my dad and I would go to the arcade. My mom used to come specifically to play Ms. Pac-Man. Back when Pac-Man fever was a thing, like there was literally, we would go to the arcade and you could play whatever you want except for Ms. Pac-Man because there was a giant line for it. And my mom would spend most of the time waiting in this line. And I remember she stopped coming with us because some woman who worked for the arcade went up, and there was the person who was directly in front of her in line, like recognized this person, went, oh, hey, and then like rang up like 20 credits on the machine for that person to play. And so it was like, it made the line suddenly like stop. And she was just like, that's it, that's enough, I'm done. And I cannot think of a time after that of her playing any video game because Pac-Man fever had consequences.
The corruption.
Yeah.
Should come down with a bad case.
Yeah.
The fever had its casualties. Yeah, that's rough.
I tried to get my dad into SimCity because for some reason I thought he would love SimCity, and I don't think he ever tried it, or I couldn't get him interested in it. But on the flip side, he got me interested in Pilot Wings because I had seen screenshots. I was like, yeah, okay, this looks like I could skip it. But then one day out of nowhere, he was like, heard this game Pilot Wings? I was like, yeah, but I'm not really interested in it. He's like, it looks really cool. And I was like, oh, maybe I should be interested in it. And then Pilot Wings arrived as a gift, and it's a really cool game. But I also couldn't get him to play it with me. Dad!
That's weird. Being burned with video games reminded me of another Christmas story. So I have 4 older brothers, and it's a hectic house, and not many gifts because it has to be spread very thinly. But one year, with the PS1, we played a lot of Gran Turismo. So we played a lot of Gran Turismo. So my parents got us a racing wheel. And the only memory I have of that racing wheel is a very good purchase. The only memory I have of that racing wheel is we had it Boxing Day. We fought over it all day. They returned it the next day. And then we never got a gift replacement.
Well, if you can't play nice with your things,
it's consequences. It taught us consequences. So video games, they teach you lessons. When your parents take them away from you and they don't replace them with anything, it's really sad. And you remember it and tell it as a story 20 years later.
Like my kind of big Christmas, one of my big Christmas video game stories was, I think it was the year, it might have been a year I got the Genesis. Might have been, no, it might have been after that. Anyway, that was the year I got the Commodore, actually. So I took it upon myself. I had a friend of mine who lived across the street, and he was devious in a way that I had not yet become. And, all the presents were wrapped and under the tree and kind of ready to go or whatever, and he was just like, why don't we just open them? I was like, I can't see a problem with this. So we took... went and got a razor blade and razor bladed the tape on everything and very carefully unwrapped all of it. Saw all of it what it was. Everything was sealed in a way that we couldn't really do much with it other than look at it and go like, that's cool. All right, we should probably wrap this stuff back up. And then all the presents went with us up to Oregon where my grandparents live. And then I'm an asshole. I can't. It was too good. So I basically then just started holding everything up to my head and going, I bet this is, and saying exactly what it was.
Oh my God.
And opening, it was too good. It was worth it. They were pissed, but it was so worth it. It was funny as shit. It was so good.
It's a good bit.
It was a great bit of business. They were very unhappy. And that was right around the time I probably stopped getting Christmas presents altogether, honestly. Reaching that age anyway. But yeah, that probably cut it off a year early.
Wow.
Worth it.
Sounds worth it.
That's amazing, and I will never look at you the same way again. I don't know if I have like a bona fide Christmas video game story, but I'm just gonna say this. I don't care if you're 6 years old or you're who you are, I'm not gonna let you win at Mario Kart. Like, that comes up all the time, but I have some little cousins, and I just feel like, especially with that game, like, if you can't beat me, then you need to take a look in the mirror. Like, you need to get better. I love them, I want them to have a good time, but I'm not gonna, like, it's hard for me to lose.
They're not going to get better if you let them win.
Exactly, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm
You're not
let
going
my
to have a
cousins
good
beat me.
time. You got to think about yourself on that one.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I want to have fun too.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
all I'm saying.
There's nothing quite as fun as just like utterly destroying your cousins at
Yes.
like competitive games. Yeah, it's
Yes.
one of the best things.
Well, I guess, or I dropped out of university and then got Rock Band, and then I played Rock Band forever and lost 15 pounds, and it was great. And then whenever it showed up at anyone's house, I would destroy them at drums, and then no one would play again. So I got to play it all night.
You just became full-time drummer.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you'll
It's
keep
like,
us from failing.
Anybody,
you do it.
Anybody?
All right.
They go, come on, it's easy.
Yeah, that became that's how I got to be with NFL Blitz. We got really good around the office, and then I won a machine in an E3 tournament and had it at home. And I was like, great, I've got a handful of friends. They occasionally play video games. They mostly just would watch me play stuff. And I was like, great, this is a good multiplayer game. Let's get it in there. But like I had spent 9 months straight getting amazing at this game. And so, and I can't let them win. That's pointless.
That's bullshit.
There's no fucking good to come from that. So, that was fun for like 2 weeks, and then it was just like, okay, no one is ever going to play this game, period, again. Like, not only had I scared them away from playing me, they were just like, I don't want to play this game ever again with other people that are bad. And it was just like, well, great. So now I still have the machine. I don't turn it on very often. But it's a good trophy. I'm going to go like, fuck those people up at that game. That was cool. And I can set this, I think there's a bottle of hand sanitizer on it now. And a jacket hanging off one of the joysticks. But, it's still cool.
It's still cool.
That is cool.
Do you still have your initials in there? Does it save the high scores?
Yeah,
You
it's
can
got
just
a
look
hard-
at
it's got a hard
just,
drive
look
in
at
it,
it
so it's-
wistfully.
Yes, it's just your initials, top and bottom.
Yeah.
No ass or butt with one T.
So, can we talk about Queer Fam for a sec?
Yes.
Is that okay? So, I have a story about fighting games. When I played them a little bit in high school and stuff, but then when I graduated high school, I was working at Electronics Boutique, if anyone remembers what that was.
We still have them in
And,
Canada.
Oh, they do?
It's a
They didn't
better
change the
world
name.
up
Is
there.
Elbow the dog still a mascot?
I'm coming to Canada with my Edge card.
Yeah.
So my assistant manager was this guy, Tim. And Tim was my first great queer friend. So like, I'm transgender, and I kind of came out in my 20s and was figuring, like, wasn't even ready to start approaching or thinking about that stuff. But Tim was like this, like, unapologetic, tall, just gay as hell, fabulous man. And he when like we started talking about fighting games, he was like, well, why don't we do Mortal Kombat at my place. And I was like, what? You do Mortal Kombat? He's like, yeah, no, it's a tournament. We just play fighting games. It's Saturday night, like first Saturday every month. Me and my partner cook for everyone, and we have a dozen games in the lineup, and it's winner stays, loser pays. And he's like, you want to come? I was like, sure. I was totally intimidated because he's like 7 feet tall. And so started going to Tim's Mortal Kombat tournaments and started bringing my friends. This was like Marvel vs. Capcom 1 era, rival schools, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And we played every fighting game that came out. We would cycle new ones in and cycle old ones out. They were amazing cooks. Tim and Brian would just cook all this food for everyone, have like up to 20 people over with like ribs and fried chicken and all homemade. It was amazing. We would just sit and eat and play fucking fighting games for hours. And this is like how I got competitive, how I got to love competition of fighting games and games. And like, that's the group, like we became a tight-knit group for years, and still are there, like those people are like my best friends, and they're the ones who I discovered and played Third Strike with. And like, it's just like that. And it was this just very queer, diverse, wonderful group where we could shit talk and we could eat too much and drink too much. And it was like, those are some of the best gaming times I think I've had in my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Street Fighter's all right.
Yeah.
Brings people together.
Yeah.
A minus. It's so interesting, like we're having all these stories about kind of like these social moments, like with other people. I recently had like a really personal moment when I was just playing a game by myself. I was just playing this like little indie game. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda. I've been into Zelda just forever.
I'm not into walking simulators.
Yeah, exactly. Just another walk in the town.
There's climbing. There's climbing in this one.
It's a climbing simulator, if anything, yeah. But I got so into that game, and I'm so into the exploration, just loving it. And I realized when I was like walking around northern Akala at night that like I don't really feel comfortable walking around at night by myself, just as a person. Like that's one of those things, to me it has been a gendered thing, just that's kind of what my mom and a lot of other women have taught me about safety. And I realized that it was just like so empowering for me to be able, even in this like virtual world, to just like feel like I could go anywhere at any time. And I think that there's like so many ways to relate that, just on so many different dimensions. The end.
That freedom of traversal.
Totally.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never really had, like, I was always the video game guy in, like, my circle of friends. There were a couple other people that, I went on to, like, work with for a while when we kind of got into, like, this line of work originally. But yeah, it wasn't really, it was weird. In some ways, I feel like it maybe even prepped me for what this career became, is that friends would come over and just watch me play video games. And we would just, like, talk shit about video games while they watched me play them. And it's like, oh, that's actually pretty much what I do now, in a lot of ways.
You got really good.
Yeah, it turns out. No. Bad at the video games, better at the talking, I guess. Yeah, and it's strange. I don't really have that much of a social connection to games. So as the local multiplayer stuff kind of came up and became a big deal again, I had like a circle of friends, back in the 90s around fighting games and stuff, where we were just physically going to arcades. And it was like, okay, we need to go play Mortal Kombat 3. We have to go to the bowling alley. It's 3 a.m. It's okay. The bowling alley is 24 hours. We can go. It's fine. And
Bowls 24 hours.
they have since come to like understand reason, and now they close at like 10 p.m. But which is a bummer if you want to like go. Well, they don't have MK3 anymore, so it's kind of pointless all around. But yeah, so it's weird. I think I only get to really experience those games now in the context of like work. It really is just like, okay, well, we're gonna check this thing out. We're gonna like evaluate it to whatever extent we do that, and sit down and play this stuff. But like outside of that, like there was this whole rise, and I think it's kind of falling again, the local multiplayer stuff a little bit. But there was this moment over these past couple of years where I'm like, wow, there's a lot of really amazing games out that I have no way to play. Because there's just like I just don't have like those people in my like outside of the office, like those people just don't exist in my life. So it's been strange watching that stuff come up. You start to feel for like oh man, these games should just have better online substitute for that. So Nidhogg 2 has been yeah. So it's interesting to like the games that kind of present themselves to you or kind of are locked away as a result of kind of like who you have in a social circle at any given time.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I've experienced that because like I am also the game player of my friends. For the most part, I have a few friends that play games, and one I play games with in particular. And we have like a shoot away from competitive games because we don't mesh. Either one of us is either very good at the game and the other one is not. No matter what the game is, there will always be a winner. I'll shout it to Jordan. Should say hi. But when I kicked his ass at Dirt 3, it was pretty good. But anyways, so yeah, so kind of like instead of the games deciding who the people were that I hung out with, it was the people deciding what games I got into. So I don't really play any competitive games or any fighting games or anything like that, but it's a lot of co-op games. And I guess when he and other people moved away, then we got more online games, and now that he's back, we're playing more local. Right? Like I'm able to get enough people to play the local multiplayer games and focus on that. So yeah, it's just like seeing your social circle affect what you can play even. Like you're saying, you're locked out of those games, so you're just unable to because of the circumstances.
And now it's literally like either you play Battlegrounds or you don't play any video game at all, because that's all anyone I know plays.
Period.
That's what we're playing now.
Yeah. But I like playing that alone. So like they're off playing it and streaming it and doing whatever, and I'm like, yeah, fuck you guys. I've got my own murdering
It's
to
all
do.
about stealth anyway. Yeah. Oh my god.
What's your best strategy? Are we stealth, or are we fighting? Are we shooting?
The best game I ever had of Battlegrounds was with Alex. Where's Alex sitting right here?
Oh,
We were doing a duo, and that was my first game I got a kill in, and it was with a handgun.
Ooh.
And Alex was running up to get a vehicle, and I saw a guy far away, and I was like, Alex, there's a guy, bang! And he went down, and I was like, did I just do that? That was rad! I gotta play this game some more. But no, I haven't got my chicken dinner yet, so I
You'll get there.
gotta do that with a group. This is what I'm deciding now at this panel is I will never get a chicken dinner alone. I don't want it. It's always got to be a communal, like shared social.
Are you
chicken dinner.
kidding?
No.
This is
Social chicken
bringing out
dinner.
like the Hunger Games in me. There's one winner.
Yeah.
There's one winner.
Oh.
Yeah.
I got mine alone and I killed 6 people on the way. I peaked early. That was months ago now, but I'll hold on to it.
There's a place for both of them. I think I have like 14 or 15 wins now, and one solo, and then the rest are duos. But yes, so if you want to join the group, I can take you to the what is it? The sacred ground. I can take you to the chicken dinner.
Let's do it.
This is how we all end up with like 7 more Discord servers, isn't it?
Oh my god. I'm ashamed to admit this. This is one sentence. Battlegrounds is the only game that has ever made me punch a wall. I am deeply, deeply ashamed of that. I did punch
Did
a
you
wall.
punch through the wall?
Look at me. Look at my thin arms.
yes?
There's
Yeah,
no
but-
way.
oh.
I hurt my hand, but I'm cool. But like oh
Don't hurt
god.
What happened?
I can't even.
It's gonna bring back the anger.
I was in the exactly. I'm about to Hulk out just thinking about it.
I guess
Basically-
that's a good transition into just video games as a thing. Especially Battlegrounds of all games. I've never felt such feelings about a game, and not just like, oh, I love this game. It's just like I'm physically in pain after like the one solo game I won. My back unclenched and I was in physical pain for like 5 minutes, and I didn't even know it. It was so weird, but just like, I guess that's a bit of a tangent, but it's video games like bringing out like visceral feelings, like you're an animal again. What it's
Yeah.
like to be
Totally.
alive.
No, there's an intensity that I think, I think live competition does that. You know, like there are definitely there's such a wide variety and such a wide range of emotion that games can evoke. But I feel like for me, the most powerful ones have been when it's been another person there that you are denying by shooting them in the fucking face. Ooh! Those moments, worth it.
They're
I
really
have to
good.
say that's my best dating tip. Like if you want to date someone, play games with them 100% of the time. Like I'm seeing someone and I met him playing Secret Hitler, and that's a board game, so I'm sorry to break the rules. But
This is games, not video games.
yes. Oh, right. Okay, good. But it's like exactly that kind of game where it's a zero sum. There's one team that wins, there's one team that loses, and like somebody's gonna screw up and just lose it for the liberals every time. And just like being in that kind of like high stakes situation with someone you just met, I promise you, foundation for love every time. It's the one.
Or you'll know for sure, like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you are worthless
Yeah,
as
exactly.
a person. Ugh, get out of my face.
Exactly right.
Good way to make
Yeah.
a best friend or a worst enemy.
Yeah.
Like, you fucked me over. You're the only name on my list now.
In a good way.
I think I will echo what's being said about competition. Like there was a period when I was playing Warcraft 2 and Myth 2 kind of at the same time, and I think I have lifelong like shoulder problems because after every like 30-minute match, I would sit back and my shoulders would just be up at my ears, and I have to just So if we're talking about like video games bringing us like visceral pain, that's a thing.
Yeah, I have Team J and I'm a jaw clencher. So Battlegrounds is bringing back a lot of fucked up sleepless nights in terms of me just going, oh my God, I gotta pop my, all right, okay, let's go.
I think when Rocket League came out,
Oh my God.
one of my friends and I just started playing online like once a week, and we decided that we were going to use the rest of the year to play games with the purpose of connecting with friends and maintaining friendships. So we played Rocket League like once or twice a week. We played Overwatch, and we played a little bit of Astroneer before I started working on Astroneer, and he introduced me to this idea that like the game is not the point, like friendship is the point, and let's find games that we can play that just require a little bit of attention, so that we can focus on just having a conversation or enjoying the other person's company or whatever else we want to talk about or want to do while we play the game. That's like simple sublimation, a game that's sublimated.
Yeah, I think that's something that like MMOs have been, people use that, the social circles that form even within an MMO.
Why do you think
naturally.
Slash Dance is so popular?
Yeah, it needs to be there. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's something. Like the side to that is like the podcast game, right? Is that game that's like it's just active enough to where you're doing a thing, but you don't care about the story because it's Destiny and whatever. And the glowing orb needs to look at the computer, and you have to shoot. It's fine, and you can listen to whatever. And yeah, I think that those sorts of games are great socially as well.
It's so interesting to talk about kind of the direction too between like relationships picking a game and then games like influencing those relationships, because I've had competitive Animal Crossing moments. Like quite seriously, I needed to have the biggest house with my best friend Haley, who lived across the street, and I think that there's a lot of directionality there.
I poured myself water and then forgot what I was thinking. Water's good though. Oh.
Agreed.
Just an extra, like, or just to add on to what you were saying, Samantha, and just like what was it? Oh yeah, we played Civ 5. Was it really good? Just we're gonna get like 5 people together, play Civ 5 till 4 in the morning, and watch movies on the other screen. So we got through a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and Jackie Chan movies, just kicking it. Like it's like the lightest thing, but it's enough to get us to like hang out, and that's what you need sometimes, just to do something and talk to other people, because it's such a pain most of the times.
Talking to other people? Totally.
Like
Yikes.
like playing, especially like with video games, you can do it online. You don't have to like leave the house. And just chill. It's great.
So okay. So two parts of this story. Halo and Halo 2, right? So like Halo and Halo 2 kind of like capture that dichotomy to me, because I went to many Halo 1 LAN parties. I had a regular group that we would get together and play, and then in the years between we sort of lost touch, and we all reconnected when Halo 2 came out, and we all got on Xbox Live with the voice chat and that virtual couch, and like started playing Halo 2 together, and it was like, isn't it funny that it takes Halo to bring us together again? But it worked, and for me at least, I've never had, and I've heard stories about people who establish friend groups through MMOs or through online games, and then they meet in person. For me, it's always been the other way. For me, it's always been like I have my friends, in corporeal space, and then as an act of convenience, we'll play online together. So like one of the guys I played fighting games with, and like we grew up together. He had a Genesis and I had a Super Nintendo, so of course we were best friends. And now the only times we really play games are online very occasionally.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, having the idea of like having like Halo friends that kind of come back together around a thing. I mean, it's almost like, so I had friends that I was only friends with because we all hung out at the same bar. Like, it's not like a video game, obviously, but they had a Ms. Pac-Man there, so it sort of counts.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, but it ended up being like, okay, well, I have one friend, she's a bartender there, and the nights she's working, we would go, and just various groups and pairings of us or whatever, which would roll in and hang out. But it like it was centered around Halo, this became very much centered around drinking. And at some point, like, everyone grew up and realized, like, this bar is a bad place. Yeah. And people drift apart. Like, I don't hear from that group of friends very much anymore. Yeah. So, yeah, I imagine, like, at some point, like, people drift away from a game, and maybe they get dragged back together by the sequel, but probably fewer and fewer each time. Right?
Like, we had another Mortal Kombat when Street Fighter V came out. And that's like the only one we've had in many years. Yeah. Like, it's just that then it becomes reunion territory.
Right.
It's a nostalgia thing.
Yes.
It's nostalgia.
Yeah.
We're getting the band back together.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh God. So fun.
We have fun.
I don't play any instruments anymore. Is there another comment on this topic, or can I bring up something?
Go for it. Crush it.
Go for it.
I just want to shout out to formative moments like in our lives. Like, for me, Mortal Kombat was a formative moment. The not the game, the meetup, but the other one was Rez for me. Like, Rez was a game that I discovered by myself. That was a good day, actually. I went to Toys R Us and I came back with Rez, Parappa 2, and another Guitar Man. That was a good-ass day.
It's a haul.
So, but I discovered Rez alone, and then I just wanted to show it to everyone that I could find. I wanted to share it with all my friends, and like, it blew my mind, and I wanted to like help. I wanted my friends' minds to be equally blown. And like, that game was really was probably more personal than social for me, but it really inspired the music game I made, Centris, in a weird way. And it's still, like, I'm so happy that it's being re-released because it's a perfect game and it's still blowing new minds today.
Yeah. Rez for me ended up being, it's complicated in a way because Rez ends up getting tied to, I think it was the first time I ever went to the Tokyo Game Show. So it was my first trip to Japan, and Sega is showing off Rez. And they had, it's the trailer that you can still find. It's like, open your senses to synesthesia and welcome to, and you just look at it and you're like, I'm not really sure what this is, but I need it.
It's compelling.
Yeah, and all that gets tied up in just like the experience of going to Tokyo for the first time for me, and like having people kind of show me around and be like, because I don't know how to get around this place, but people who had been there before, it's like, here's how you use the trains, here's how you do this, let's go buy a bunch of Transformers and old games, and Rez kind of got caught up in that, and so when that thing came out, like I bought the headphone one, I have a trance vibrator ready to go, all that stuff, I can't fully explain why, but Rez has such a deep personal thing for me. Like, it's every time. Like, the first time I played Area X was at PAX last year in a very hot hotel room, and they were like, "Don't tell anybody you ever saw it." Well, anyway.
This is gonna sound like a high thought, and so I'm warning everyone. But
Rez is like, everything you say about Rez comes out that way. It's hard to convey to people without sounding like a fucking lunatic.
All I want to say is that I feel like, for me, video games have this really emotional component of this first time that you play them. When you go back and you play them years later, like, you're literally, this is the high thought, doing the same thing that you were doing, so many years ago. And I don't know why that feels like more in the moment to me than like rereading a book or rewatching a movie, but it really does feel that way. Very fourth dimensional. And I don't know, every time I play Pokemon now, I think about like the first time I had my Pokemon Yellow. Like, there's so much nostalgia that's inexplicable to me.
Now I'm like flashing back to the first time I saw my friend playing Pokemon, and I haven't thought about that in years. It is powerful.
Yeah.
It's time travel.
Wait, which Pokemon did you pick? I had Pikachu because it was yellow.
So I've never actually played through Pokemon. I've never started my own Pokemon.
Really?
I just watched my friends play.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. I'm a fake gamer girl.
Out.
How
Gotcha.
dare you?
Gotcha. Stole your joke. Stole your joke. Yeah, Rez is incredible. Pokemon is incredible. Video games are incredible.
And also, like,
Yeah.
I think what you talked about with, like, nostalgia, like, the devious but also in some ways welcome thing is that they've gotten so good at selling it to people again and again and
Yeah.
again. And they seem keenly aware that, like, nostalgia plays a really strong role for a lot of people in some of those older games. So, like, they're now, the digital distribution makes it so easy, they will happily sell you 9 different versions of a game.
Yeah, I feel like with games other than like books and music and movies and stuff, well, music can definitely, like, I don't know, for me, like, put me back in the spot when I first heard it. But with games, I feel like playing them again, you can kind of like fill in the blanks of your own memory.
Yeah.
I don't know about anyone else, but I have not the best memory for specific things, especially when it's general, like, I played a game. But like, you can go back and be like, oh, I remember this, and you kind of get like the feeling of like, did I do this when like I was 7 years old? Like, I was playing this game. Like, that's cool. I wonder if I noticed this. And like, you're kind of thinking back to your past self with the ability to be able to interact with it and make different choices, or like look at it from a different angle, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, I look at games very differently now than I did then. It's part of, it's what I do. And so now going back to a lot of that stuff, part of it is that thing of like, okay, like, I remember really liking this game, but then there's that constant like, but why? But why? And increasingly, I'm finding that a lot of those games, I mean, they don't hold up, but also sometimes it's hard to see what I saw in them originally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you get this weird distance of just like, well, I can't put myself back in that position. Like, too much has changed.
Right.
At this point, like, my approach to the medium has changed so much that it's really hard to go back to that and tap back into that all the time. And so it becomes a very limited number of games, where it is something like Rez or Phantasy Star Online or like the Mortal Kombat franchise and stuff like that, where there is still that feeling of just like, okay, like I see why this stuff mattered over the years. But yeah, plenty of games that were just like some random NES game that I was in love with for 6 months or something. You go back to it now, you're like, this game's fucking terrible. This
What did I
game's
do?
dog shit. What am I doing? And it's fascinating to go back to that now and just go like, okay, well, like, and I've talked about it with other people, like the very idea of like, what games actually still matter? Like, if you were trying to introduce someone to video games, period, and in a somewhat historical sense, like, which games would actually be relevant to that discussion?
Yeah.
And the thing that I've started to find is like the games that like I'd rattle off in a minute of just like, oh, this, you got to play this, you got to play this, you got to play this. You go back and look at them, most of them you're like, actually, maybe you don't. Because they've gotten so much better over the years that maybe the newer, like whether it's a re-release or just a completely different game that took inspiration from it, might be a better example now for why that format, why that genre might make some sense.
There's such an evolution, and when we're talking about games, especially just even video games, like, there's so much that can mean. There's so many emotions that can evoke, and just like purely mechanically, like, you can just trace that and like see what is the best iteration of like a first-person shooter that has these specific components, or like a rhythm game, or these kinds of things.
It kind of makes my head spin, sort of how quickly and how much they've changed throughout my lifetime. Like, keeping up to date and talking about new games year after year with friends. It's like watching yourself grow up. Like, you don't notice yourself growing up because you look in the mirror every day. But then, like, looking back at something, on the PlayStation is just like, or thinking, like, lately for me, it's been thinking about like streaming integration, a social integration.
Totally.
The sort of performance aspects of games
Or even
that
just the raw social acceptability of video games in a mainstream sense. Like, the time, like, there were the fad days of Pac-Man and the Atari 2600, and like the NES was big, but that was right around the time that it felt like it started to turn. And maybe it was just because I was of a certain age at that point, and it was just like, well, the jocks want to talk about Van Halen and not Lode Runner.
Oh, it's hot now.
Yeah.
It's hot again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now, yeah. It's,
Video games, they're very hot.
They're so hot right now. Absolutely, and it makes me really happy to think about how much everything has evolved and changed. Like, there are definitely things that I miss. You know, there is that nostalgia that is not always capitalized on or sold in maybe the most like satisfying way. But I think in general, just looking at how far forward everything has moved, it makes me so happy to like see that there are so many games, that I have so much in my Steam library that I will play someday. I'll get around to it.
It's a wonderful, diverse variety, and there's something for everyone. There's literally something for everyone, and that sort of makes me happy. I mean, very much makes me happy when I think about people that I don't know playing games that I like and that they also like, or playing games that I don't like but they like, and that makes them happy. And I get some reminders of this currently, because I'm working on Astroneer, and in the office we're always talking about like how do we make the game better, how do we improve it, and every once in a while we just get an email or we get a message or we get a positive comment on YouTube that's just like, I've been playing this game for 60 hours and it's so awesome, and I love everything you guys are doing, and it's like, you know. It's a variety of ages, and there's a lot of teenagers and tweens that play Astroneer, and like just knowing that I am part of something that made them so happy. Like maybe that's a game that's been formative for them. Yeah. And like that is like the warmest feeling, right?
Everybody asked to go write 3 sweet YouTube comments today. Every single one of you, we need you all, please. They're life-changing.
That does lead to the one question I thought of before. Since all of you do work in some way in the games industry, like how has your relationship with games changed? And like especially how it affects like what we're talking about, these stories and stuff. And just like it's now your work, but is it still able to have this effect outside of that?
That one's I can jump in on. So I've worked at Cards Against Humanity for almost 4 years, and I used to play that game with my friends, and now after having kind of like play tested it hundreds of times and I've seen every card and just been around it, like everyone in our office hates that fucking game. Like we're never gonna play it. Absolutely not.
2.0 in stores now.
Yeah, 2.0 in stores now. Thank you for saying that. But it was the thing that it does make me realize is it makes me look at it in a much more analytical way. I'm like, okay, this is a social game, and it's built to like break down these barriers and make people feel comfortable around each other and blah, blah, blah. And I think I have a new sense of appreciation for that and what it can do, but I also find myself like kind of craving games that are far away from the genre in which I work. Like I don't play that many party games anymore. I still really like board games and social, like just social games, but there's this one I'm really into called Fury of Dracula that is like a 4-hour game that is like an impossible board game that's just so complex and mechanical, and I think that like I found myself kind of going in the opposite direction of my genre of work.
Before I got into games, I did a summer intense filmmaking class because I wanted to make movies, and they warned me that like when you learn how movies are made, it spoils movies. And like you look at a shot and go like, oh well, how did they set up the lights to get this lighting effect? Or like, oh, like there's an inconsistency in the editing between these two shots. And it's the same thing for games. Like learning how to put games together and like learning all the shortcuts that you take, and like how, you know, how carefully constructed the game is to do exactly what it does, and if and nothing else, right? Like this is maybe why speedrunning's so interesting. But like, I still love to play games. I guess the biggest change for me, besides that aspect of sort of like seeing how they're made, like peeking into the factory, is I have spend way more time making games than playing games now. So I wish that I were spending more time playing games, but it's just growing up is a thing, I guess. Like adulting is a dumb thing that, yeah.
Yeah, I think for my part, you know, it's I've been doing this for a little over 20 years now, and like for the first half of that, I was pretty secluded from how like games were made. It wasn't something that, you know, you talk to developers, but they never were allowed to really talk to you. Any interview you did would be very much, here's this buttoned up PR speak, here's this sort of thing. And, you know, over the last, 9 years now of doing what I'm doing now, we have a different tone that we take with developers and we take with interviews, and we've gotten to know people over the years, and you hear more about the struggle. You hear more about like what goes into even bad games being made, and gaining a newfound respect for that has, in some cases, combined with just like, at this point, I've played a whole lot of video games. I have my bars for quality are weird in a lot of ways because you play so many of them, you get a little broken along the way in terms of what you're looking for. But there's also that aspect of just like, man, it's really weird. Like the thing I came to realize is like, it's a miracle any game ever ships.
Ever.
Ever.
It's a huge miracle.
Yeah, the idea that anything ever gets to a point where they're like, push it out the door and start selling it is crazy. And learning things like that, then you start to like appreciate the craft in a way that ultimately I think in a lot of cases doesn't matter to the people that are out there kind of buying games. They shouldn't have to know how the sausage is made. In fact, it's probably better in some cases that they don't. But yeah, it's I would say that my perspective on things has certainly changed over the years. So it's really is. Yeah, it's different. In some ways, it's like comedians as they when they get into it over the years, they someone who might laugh a lot becomes a hard laugh over the years. Right. They think something's funny, but they're also analyzing it in their mind the whole time and stuff like that. Like I love the shit out of video games. It's most of what I think about when I'm awake and oftentimes when asleep. It's a huge part of my life and it always will be. But in some ways, like that's not always conveyed as exuberance for the medium right. in the way that some other people might. Like I at this point, I have become a little more thoughtful about it and spend a lot more time thinking about like, well, why did they do this? What are they really trying to accomplish here? Or I know that this path only exists because there's a hidden thing down this road. Like you start outthinking the design of the game in some cases, and that sort of stuff has changed for me over the years.
And I guess to wrap it back to what we're speaking like at the start, has that ever, for all of you, has that ever like affected how you relate to people and games? Like the people that we were talking about in the communities that we have and the friends and all that. Like, has that changed how you relate to all of that?
It's made me a miserable asshole because now I'm the guy that if anyone who doesn't, and I should stop, I can't. It's literally like people like, so what's good? What's good lately? I don't really know much about the video games. What do you think about this? And then I've got like 20 stories about like, well, they only put this game out because this other game got canceled, and then this person got fucked over on this deal, and now they're making this, and it's just like, no one cares. But I know all that stuff, so it's yeah.
Oh God, I totally agree. I feel like there's, like when you work in the industry or you work a lot with anything, you get that analytical side. It gets completely ruined for you and you're a miserable person. But going back to these memories, like this nostalgia, that is one of the ways that I access that, like those feelings I had when I first started getting into games at all. And then I think that like hearing that story about your grandma, Eric, is so cute, and like seeing people discover it for the first time. That's like the way I vicariously live like a parasite and like find my childlike joy again. Because I think that's my favorite. It's just like finding new people and adding people to the games group, and sort of that sense of community is the way I feel alive again.
Making sure that they're broken in the same way you are.
Exactly, that's it. That's totally it, yeah.
I don't trust someone that doesn't play video games.
Smart, yeah.
That's all I have to say about it.
Cool. I think we're almost out of time. All of you have something to plug. I'll give you some time.
Please play Astroneer. It's on Steam and Xbox Live Preview. Thank you. We're working hard to finish it and make it really good.
Yay. Buy Cards Against Humanity. Pay my paycheck. Thank you.
GiantBomb.com premium memberships are on sale.
Nice.
If anyone needs a wedding film, just hire me in Chelsea. That's what I've been doing all summer. But yes, thank you everyone for coming to the panel. And just, I guess you came for the crowd, but I'm here too, and I appreciate it, and I thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being on the panel.
Thank you, Eric.
It was
Thank you,
wonderful. It went
Eric.
very well, I think. What do you think? Yeah? Shout out to Chelsea for filming. Working so hard.
Yay!
And I guess that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone. Have a good PAX.